Hello, friends. Hey, welcome to another edition of the show. I'm Joe, and today we're talking to a superintendent who's wrote 2 times best-selling books. Rumor has it there's another one on the way. He's named top 100 educational influencers while leading a K-8 shore town district in the great state, beautiful state of New Jersey. Glenn Robbins, superintendent of Brigantine Board of Education. Welcome to the show, Glenn.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
Hey, tell us, what's it like to be you today, sir?
What's it like to be me?
Yes.
I get to live the exciting life working with amazing kids, amazing staff, amazing board and community. And I work 3 blocks from the beach, my friend. So I'm not sure it gets better than that, other than the fact that it's about 40 degrees here today. So it's not exactly the best beach weather. But I enjoy the staff and the work that we do day in and day out here. And I'm blessed.
I'll take your beach weather any day today. Miss Becky is expecting to be home as a school teacher tomorrow because the high is supposed to be 15 below zero, the high. So,
You
yeah,
can have that.
yeah, we're having it whether we want it or not. I want to really zero in on the author Glenn here for a moment. We'll get to the superintendent Glenn, but I think there's an intersection here as well. But most superintendents write books after they retire. I left the superintendency and then started writing a bunch of books, right? Memoirs, reflections. Here's what I learned. It's kind of safe and predictable that way. But you wrote 2 bestsellers while you're the superintendent. Tell me, what in the world is your system to be writing books while you're running a very healthy school system?
Well, that's the thing. You find your hours, right? Depending if you're nocturnal or an early owl, whatever it may be. I find my hours after hours. That's my system. I have a great support group around me. When we wrote the first book, I actually reached out to a friend of mine, Danny Bauer. This is back in 2018, 19, and discussed the idea of the book, which is Common to Chaos, ancient Stoic wisdom for successful school leadership, because at that time, I was going through a whirlwind of storms, and I was like, I can't be the only one. I know I'm not the only one. And Stoicism was on the rise. So I sat with him and said, Danny, you've written some books before. Uh, Help me, show me some ways, and let's do this together and make it beneficial. And
So
from
the
there, I
first
used
first
that
book was
groundwork.
called Calming the Storm?
Calm into chaos.
Calming the Chaos. Yes.
Calm into chaos, ancient Stoic wisdom for successful school leadership.
Oh my gosh, what a so timely. And we'll talk about the other ones that were birthed from that project
Mhm.
as well. But let's talk about your writing process. You're full-time superintendent, so you talked about early mornings, late nights, weekends. What you kind of have a metronomic when you're in it, when
Yeah.
you're embracing being a writer, and that's not many people do it because it's hard. It's hard work.
I'll challenge myself to at least get like 500 words down if I can.
Yeah.
And or, for that book in particular, I love ancient Stoicism. I was a former history teacher. I'm a history nerd. I enjoy historical leaders, that could shape the world. And we still talk about how many years later. And, with that, I took quotes and I broke down the quotes and what they meant to me or how it would resonate to the profession. So I'm doing that at late hours or early mornings before my kids and family wake up. And a lot of my writing actually takes place during the summertime. So
Mm.
I'm a little more freed up. I'm doing a lot of budgetary work and all the other fun stuff that comes in, staffing and so forth. But I've noticed in the summertime, a little happier. The sun's up a lot longer. I can sit by the pool or be by the beach and just write some things out. And then other times too, a process that I think most people don't do is I'll go for walks or runs,
Yeah.
and I'll basically talk into my phone, and that does all the teleprompting onto that. And then I go back and review the notes, and I keep adding to it. So just write, 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 and write. I'm not worried about the spelling. I'm not worried about the grammar. We'll go back for the citations at the end and so forth, but just putting it out there. And a lot of time it's therapeutic. I love to read and writing, getting it out sometimes after a good day or a bad day. It helps a lot for the
I've
mental
heard from a
health.
number of authors, you've got your hacks, if you will. So if you're out for a run, you got a little device, everybody has an idea catcher, right? It can be digitized. It can be, some people just have a note card with them all the time and they're just scratching out ideas, but the idea will land, right? It's got a place to land instead of just a dreamer idea, you know? a dreamer idea. So you weren't writing retrospective. You're kind of writing real time, kind of field tested,
Mhm.
from timeless, really timeless
Yes.
literature, timeless wisdom from days past. What type of feedback are you getting from your readers out there?
In that particular one, it's like, thank you, because I'm in the thick of it right now. Here, I wrote this idea back in 2018, 19. Danny and I got together, COVID hit, and then we started writing right after COVID. And here, for those that lived in the COVID times of superintendency, that was rough.
Yeah.
And then you had the post-COVID time, that was rough. And now we have these tremendous times, and it's even rougher. So, the job doesn't get any easier. The society, the chaos, the storms are big or small, depending on where you are. You're going to deal with the ultimate thing, which is human emotion. You're
Yeah.
going to deal with circumstances that will be in any type of organization. And as a leader, you have to address them, whether you want to or not. That's part of the job. So this is just basically saying between Danny and I's stories, we changed names and so forth, but we shared a lot of things that we had happen to us, whether it was angry board meetings or
Mm.
having to remove popular people in town, or, there's angry parents or angry whatever. How do you deal with that? Because each and every principal, assistant principal, superintendent, or a teacher leader, it doesn't matter. Your leader is a leader. You're under tremendous stress and it weighs on you. But if you don't find ways to get that out and to resonate in some way, you're not going to be in the business for much longer.
Well, good on you. Good on you for providing some content, right? The content has access to every context, like you said. It doesn't matter where you're leading. It used to be the pinnacle was, oh, we've got this VUCA, right? VUCA, everything's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, it's ambiguous. Well, it has actually shifted beyond VUCA, which is crazier than
Mhm.
crazy, crazier than crazy, to this world of Banny. And I think you touched on it. It's brittle. It's just
Yes.
brittle right
It's a
now.
delicate balance each and
It's
every day.
anxious. Everybody's just anxious and anxiety, right? And what do we do? And it's nonlinear. You can't just, well, hey, do these 3 steps and you're gonna be better,
Correct.
right? It's incomprehensible is what it is.
No doubt.
It's so hard to define. So the fact that you're taking a swing at it, not only in book 1, but you 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 took a swing at book number 2. How far of a stretch was it between 1 and 2?
How far of a what?
A stretch. How much time was there between book 1 and book 2?
Exactly 1 year.
Okay.
Literally a year and a month, I think it was.
So you didn't squeeze all the juice and wisdom out in book 1. You had more to go.
Yeah, correct. And I wrote book number two, and book number three, which is coming out hopefully in the next month or two or three, during the same time. So two totally different ideas. But book two was I Won't Back Down: How Educators Can Turn Rejection into Redirection. And sort of like you were just mentioning, like it's a very brutal time, it's a very hostile time.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the amount of times that people get told no, or they get rejected from an interview, or they're looking to move up. I deal with hundreds of aspiring superintendents I mentor across the country, such as yourself. You're trying to help people grow, and you hear their stories about being rejected. And I try to spin it, share stories in that book based on musical artists. So
Mm.
every chapter is a famous musician who was rejected, but it turned him into a better trajectory for the better.
Wow.
So I Won't Back Down obviously come from Tom Petty. Tom Petty, um, he's already a star, but he wrote his first solo album, Full Moon Fever. And he went to his executives and they said, no, this is not good. It's going to be a dud. And he was demoralized. He was beaten down. He put his heart and soul into his work. And if you've listened to that record, there's a bunch of great songs on there. And his friend, during that time saw him down and said, hey, why don't you come out to dinner with me? And they did. And while they were there was musical instruments up in the front. And friend goes, hey, let's go jam some of your songs. Why not? And little did Tom know, or maybe he did know, there was a bunch of other music executives in that crowd.
Mm.
And they all loved the music. They all wanted to sign him immediately to it, but he couldn't because he was already under contract with the other company. Word gets out. And then all of a sudden, it's a brilliant idea. We want to produce this record. and it goes on to be, one of the greatest sets of all time. But the part of that was that I share in that story is the friend. And we have those friends along the way who will pick us up or check in on us throughout our rejections or our tough times, the ones that are real friends. And that friend was George Harrison of the Beatles.
Oh my goodness.
So if you ever get a chance, for anybody listening, go on to YouTube, type in "I Won't Back Down," the music video, and you will see George Harrison and Ringo Starr in that music video. Now, Joe, I don't know about you, but
Legendary.
when that came out on MTV, I watched that video a bunch of times as a
Didn't
kid,
I
and
didn't
I
pick it out.
never comprehended it.
Didn't pick it out. But the lesson there, it is probably not what you're pursuing,
Yeah.
right? Because Tom Petty was pursuing what ensued,
Mhm.
right, along the way,
Yeah.
and
You know,
how powerful of a message that is. You don't always know what's around the corner if you are
yeah,
a leader, you do
yeah.
not, but
And
you
you need
can't
those
just sit.
friends. Yep, you
You
need those
cannot
friends to
sit.
keep on.
You gotta
Yep,
link up with others, and you go around the bend together,
yep. And it's
right?
funny, you were
So
talking
good.
about that, the next chapter, I've kept this on my wall the last, couple districts I've been in. That is the old, uh, poster for the Monkees in concert 1967 from Jacksonville, because this is another chapter.
Okay.
The opening act, because the Monkees thought this person was great and it was gonna change the course of music, the opening act was Jimi Hendrix.
That's something that's a juxtaposition to the monkeys.
So to the Monkees, for those listening, that's like a boy band with
Right?
an extreme rock and roller that do not match up, and he was booed off the stage numerous times. He was criticized multiple times. He was quit. So one of the greatest rock and roll guitarists of all time almost quit, but he didn't. He hung in there. He stopped touring with them eventually and went overseas. And then his trajectory and his career went to a whole nother level. And then how is music today based off of his music, not necessarily the monkeys,
Oh my
but how
god.
do you listen to the critics there? And that was in that particular chapter was, are you in the right environment? Someone might not
Mm.
see the work that you do day in and day out, but when you go someplace else, you might be beloved or a star. So that's the tough reflection questions. Like, even though you got rejected, there's
Yeah.
something better elsewhere, and it might be a completely better thing where people celebrate and appreciate your work.
So said differently, you can be fully relentless on purpose in the wrong place
Yep.
and not be received,
Yes.
where place could be the independent variable to have both light up.
Yeah.
Your purpose and place must be something that definitely jives with each
Yeah.
other.
And it keeps going on in the book about all these various different artists who went through that, but I tied in with education on it as a leader, your journey throughout that. And to you just mentioned, does it tie into where you are? I have another chapter in that book that talks about, no matter what you do, you'll never be able to please the agenda of a certain town that you're in or please the agenda of a certain board that you're working for. So, you have to understand that as a leader that you need to work together. And if it's not functioning, maybe you're not in the correct
Yeah.
environment. So,
Yeah. No, I resonate with that. I know enough leaders out there that are righteous people that just found the wrong place and got dumped.
yeah,
And
and no matter
and
what they do, they can be doing amazing things, but it's never good enough.
right.
It's never enough. And so that's how that book came about. I love music. I still
I can
probably owe
tell.
money for those,
I would not wanna play
Indians
the
for
song game
candy.
with you. I would lose, royally lose my shorts. Hey, let's talk, Glenn, top 100 educational influencers. That's not a participation trophy. That is something that you have earned. And maybe when you got this recognition, I don't know if your first thought was finally, validation. I've been working my socks off to get, or if it was, oh no, I got to live up to this now.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. I remember back being a principal and I got the National Digital Principal Award from NASSP. That weight on those shoulders was tremendous because now it was, I need to know everything about technology all the time. And then I realized, along my journey, am I doing it for myself or am I doing it for show?
Mm,
And I felt like that show aspect was kicking in. I didn't like that. I'm very modest, humble person. I introduced myself as Glenn. Half the time you don't know I'm the superintendent or where I'm from or what I'm doing. So for me, it was once again a humbling experience, but it was also for this top 100. It's showing that I have hundreds of people in my district who are doing amazing things.
yeah.
So I'm
Okay.
just blessed to be alongside of the ride with them and working with them each and every day, that I get to work with the school board and the city council and everybody in the town for all the right reasons. I'm very, uh, humbled and blessed by that, because I know many like you do who do not have that opportunity.
Yeah. Wow. Um, let's shine a little bit of light. I mean, your influence to the people across many different communities and districts is one thing, but you're mentoring a lot of good folks right there locally. You've got this little elemental, right? Is it, they still call it that? I thought that would be the dream job, to be an
Pre-K to 8.
elemental principal, right? I was a middle school principal for a while, 6'8". Most fun job I ever had, right? And then I went to a high school. You don't have a high school. Tell me what it's like leading in a system without a high school.
Well, it's kinda unique. I did 9 years of my first part of my career in a high school, uh, probably the largest in South Jersey and probably the most diverse in the state. So I went from being a high school history teacher to high school soccer varsity coach to assistant principal, for 9 years, and then I went to middle school and then elementary, and I love it. It is amazing. I get to wear fun, wacky suits because the kids and the grandmoms and grandpops love that kinda stuff. The
Folks, if you haven't seen those fun, wacky suits, I think he's underplaying this thing. You just scroll LinkedIn for a while, and you're gonna see some of the most I don't believe he passed through security wearing that thing.
Yeah. But you know what, though? The kids love it because, and I'll be honest with you, I wear it because, like you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of worry in the world. So when I have these crazy suits on, whether it's a holiday or whatever it may be, my Super Mario or Pac-Man or whatever, if I took 5 minutes away of anxiety and stress from a mom and dad, a grandma and grandpa, and a kid as they're walking in the door and they feel a little more happy and relaxed and forget about their stressors for a while, I've done my job. Maybe that makes them go on a better path for that day as they're laughing at me or laughing with me, depending on how they look at it. That's why I do it. I get to do fun things each and every day because these
Mhm.
kids are so excited about learning.
I firmly believe that, you're talking about, the climate, the culture, the environment that is shaped at a macro level by your office. It doesn't matter who's in there. That person, if they're there for 3 years or more, have shaped the culture of the organization. So talk to me about how you are thinking about your district's culture and you showing up in a goofy suit, how that attributes to just what it is that intentionally you want to deliver there.
Yeah, Joe, you hit the nail on the head. Like, 2 years ago, we became, for the first time in over 20 plus years, a high performing school district in New Jersey. We'd never achieved that here, and we intentionally worked on the happiness of staff, the happiness of kids, the happiness of families. But we've done that. I can't tell you how many great things that we've been recognized for our staff and for our kids. But you know what people remember? You're the guy that wears the crazy suits.
Right. Right.
But here's the thing. There's a bigger purpose to this. Why I look funny and wacky and people laugh at me on LinkedIn, whatever it may be, and they go, I can't believe he's doing this. I always think about the latest Gallup poll that came out this past summer, 25 and 35. Those numbers will always stick with me right now because 25 represents the world, 35 represents North America. And that is the percentage that are happy and believe in what their organizations are doing.
We're on the good side of that, right? Did you say the US is 35?
35%. That means 2/3 are not happy.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but I had that experience with my wife. We went to the hospital over the summer, for an ER event. We did not meet the happy. And that changed the trajectory of our stay there. It was not a good situation when you're stressed and anxiety to no end. So I look at it from that lens. We work exclusively
Mm.
with a great company, great people led by CEO Brad Black out of the Midwest called Human X. And they check and they all the culture for our staff. And we work hard on that. We put it out, the culture surveys, and it breaks it down to us top 10 things we're doing great, top 10 things we really need to work on. And then we sit with staff and say, all right, ladies and gentlemen, here's what came back. Here's what you're thinking. This is about not only me, not only the district, but it's also about your fellow coworkers. It's about your belief and things of such that nature. So we try to take it a step further. I know like everybody was all excited about the Unreasonable Hospitality book that came
Right.
out a couple years
Right,
ago.
right.
That was great, right? I gave that to my team as soon as it came out. As soon as I spotted it on the Bear episode, I was like, "What is this?" and shared it right away. But that is our focus. We focus on staff first. And if our staff are happy and doing the work, then it trickles down to the kids, it trickles out to the families, it trickles out to the community. And like I said earlier, we all work together hand in hand for the common purpose of what's best for our kids.
I tell you what, right there, I hope we're gonna grab that clip right there and just replay how important it is for us to tip over and pour out into those that are on the ground floor,
Yeah.
working working with our students, but it's oftentimes we forget, right? Because oftentimes staff, faculty, teachers become the interference to what it is that we're trying to accomplish because they're not biting on this AI initiative that we need them. No, I think the question is have you how often are you going into their arena?
Yeah,
And
and they
and I
do
think
it
you
day in,
do that
day out without things without us with some most things we don't even know.
exactly, exactly. To say, Hey, how can I help you? What are you working on?" "Oh, how can I help?" Isn't that the first step to doing anything in garnering influence?
Yeah,
And you are known, I mean, you're kind of the mentor out there. You're the mentor across various sectors, but in-house, you're known as somebody who's gonna take the time to go, "Hey, um, I want to build your capacity." That's what you're known for. That's why I found you. And not everybody has the time to do that. In some cases, leaders in your office will say it's a waste of time, right? But unless you're building the capacity of your people, your
mm,
system will stay stuck.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
so
doubt.
where do you find that time? I don't know if you got just metronomically scheduled calls each month or, the 3rd Tuesday of every month, I'm always doing this thing. Where do you find the time to interface with your most important people on campus?
On campus, it's each and every day. I'm out and about. I'll do the paperwork after hours. I don't mind doing that. But if I'm visible and I'm there and I'm intentional, that matters the most. And like you mentioned, the hard part is you're trying to build a system, you're trying to build other leaders. So that way, when you do leave one day, the system is twice as good as it was when you were there. And you're trying to build other leaders because, look, these kids, you and I, right? We only had one childhood, right? That's
Right.
all we had. What kind of stories do you want their childhoods of the future to be able to tell? What kind of trajectory do you want your childhood to be? I think back, I'm like, oh, there's not some good things in my life, and there's some really good things in my life. How can we make that better? So I try to focus on that. Like these kids get one childhood, one education life. So for us, how do we make it an experience that they walk in and go, man, I'm so happy to be here. Our part of our mantra, it's on there that one of the girls said, we get to go to school here. For me, it's focusing on that and making it an experience for them and making a love of learning. Now, am I saying that every kid's going to walk out of here, super excited about learning? No, I'm not naive, but I'm basically trying to say, I'm going to give you as many opportunities as you can. So when you go to the high schools, you're not only ready, you're ready to lead. And the same thing for our leaders. Um, I had a text the other day. We had a half a day, and it was for a workshop that was on Zoom for professional development. So we basically spoke with the admin team, and I said, "Look, like we did during COVID, they can go watch this Zoom wherever they want, in the car, go down to the beach, go home if they're close enough, get in their classroom, wherever they feel comfortable. As long as they sign in, you're there." Yeah, our participation rate was amazing. I was sitting in the gym at my son's basketball weightlifting
Mm.
area, watching it and seeing all these great questions come in. Don't you know, later that night, I got a text from a friend of mine of another district that said, we had a similar day, but on the intercom, after it ended 10 minutes early, the intercom came on and the superintendent said, I've already seen one or two people on camera leaving early. Do not leave or you'll be written up.
Mm-mm.
So
Different soundtrack right there, boss.
yeah, so I look at it like this, there's managers and there's leaders. Managers are doing, the things right. The leaders have to do it the right way. So participation was through the roof. People were happy to do this workshop on a Friday. They didn't
Yeah.
have to, but they were there. But we gave them the comfort of where they are for their own mental health. And I think people forget about that.
We break it down. I mean, there's smarts. You gotta have IQ smarts to be successful in this business, but you also need to have what I call PQ smarts, and that's your perception of doing things in order to get the best impact, the
You try.
best engagement.
You
I
try.
mean, yes, I mean, I somebody else had a failed experiment that you didn't have because you were able to think through it through the lens of those that have their boots on the ground
Yeah,
floor.
you know,
I'm married.
yeah,
I'm married to Miss Becky, who's a school teacher.
yeah.
That helps me every single day stay
It's
grounded.
also like, it seems like only doctor's appointments are like the last 5 minutes of school hour times, like things of that nature. You work with them so they can get there instead of taking a full day sub and the kids are missing out. You find a way, you help your people. To your point, you're married. To my point, I have young kids as well. So, there's doctor's appointments, there's sporting events, there's all kinds of stress that adds on to the family. Why not try to help take some away if you can to your staff? Because like you mentioned earlier, the weight of the world is on their shoulders. They're doing tremendous work. It's never enough in most eyes of the media.
Mm.
And, it's a shame because they are amazing people who do amazing work day in and day out.
I love how real you're showing up here. Now we're gonna see how real you're showing up. We're gonna do a thing we call lightning round. Okay, we just have some fun. 10 real quick hit questions. Question number one. What's a quote that you live by?
I think it's a paraphrase Marcus Aurelius. It has to do with the waves crashing over a rock and remaining unturned.
So good. Are you a morning person or night owl?
I'd say both, but more nocturnal at the night.
A decision that you'd make 10x, 10 times over.
I do it infinity, marrying my wife.
Excellent answer. Excellent. How, pork roll, huh? Or Taylor ham?
There's not even a conversation here, my friend. It's just strictly pork roll.
Jersey boy. How about best lesson? Because you're working on book number 3 right now. Best lesson that you took from book 2 that is helping you to write book number 3.
You know what? The editing process is never easy, getting in the thick of it. I think of the military mantra, because this book has to do with all historical leaders. I think of the military mantra, embrace the suck.
It's gonna stink. It's gonna. If you were not a superintendent, what are you gonna be doing?
You know what? It would have been a chef or a sports agent, thanks to Jerry Maguire.
There we go. The name of the movie could have changed. You know. How about the teacher Glenn? What's that teacher Glenn back in the day thinking about superintendent author Glenn?
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin with that thinking process, to be perfectly honest with you.
How about a word or a phrase for Brigantine's future?
Exciting.
Love that. Love that. Best thing about leading a short town that most people, I don't know what leading a short town is all about. What is the best thing?
Besides being able to take lessons and classes down to the beach, the best thing is small town, big heart. We're all working together for the right reason for the kids, and that's not an easy task that many other superintendents have, and I'm very lucky to have that.
Destination Brigantine. Yes. AI versus your best teacher. Who's going to win, boss?
Best teachers, hand down.
You heard it. You heard it. I think here's what Glenn just proved. And I just so appreciate you're one of the most real people we've had on the show. It's not the constraint of time. I think it's your priorities, isn't it? It's being able to effectively prioritize your preferred future. What is it that you want to do? Well, make priority for it,
We all have
right?
the same hours. We all have the same
We
days
do.
of the week.
Best-selling author, top 10 educational influencer, national speaker while running a school system. It is possible. So if you're a superintendent sitting out there, can I say just superintending? That's gonna get me in trouble because it's a 120% job, right? It's nearly an impossible job, but I love seeing these models of leaders that are out there that have figured out what their capacity truly is and how to manage those priorities and the boundary lines, if you will, to make the things happen that they want to see happen. Glenn, you're such an inspiration to the show here today. Is there anything else that you just want to share for somebody that maybe is aspiring to be in the office of the superintendent someday, but reading too many newspaper articles and saying, no way, never, never,
Yeah, I think, a couple things. Number 1, reach out to me, go on my website, GlennRobbins, 2 N's, 2 B's .com. You can contact me. I'll gladly help you through the process, whether it's interviews. Like I mentioned earlier, I mentor countless aspiring superintendents across the country. Um, we're all in this together. You know, as a young dad, my job is to make sure that my young child one day has a great education and a great life, and I want the same for everybody else, no matter where they are.
Fantastic. If they want to learn a little bit more about your district, where do they go?
They go to brigantineschools.org.
.org. There it is, folks. That's the show. This has been a good one. You're going to want to put this one on repeat and send it to a friend or two. Thank you, Glenn. Really appreciate it. And thanks to our audience for tuning in again. Peace, friends.